It is the Vegas Take Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. Obviously talking about a lot of serious issues. Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, his decision-making. How is Donald Trump intertwined in that? We're going to get to all these subjects, and brings me great pleasure in studio. You might recall this man's name. Did a show here at KDWN. He's been on the radio for 14 years. So I made the announcement last night that Rabbi Yitz Wyne was going to be joining us in studio. And then I had a couple people saying, well, are we going to do a live bris with you on the air? I said, no, nobody's going anywhere near that area. That is not going to happen. I also want to say this. Thank God, Donald Trump doesn't own this studio, because maybe if he had it his way, you got two Jewish people in the studio, and maybe he'd kick us out. I don't know.
Brian, it's been exactly how long since anyone of either sex has been near that area again?
No comment on that one. That was a cheap shot, but no comment. But then again, JD, you're married, so I would say the joke's on you. Anyway, let's get to the man that is in studio right now. No brisses, right, Rabbi?
No brisses today.
It's not going to be happening. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. Really
Thanks for having. It's awesome to be here.
Figure we get a little bit of levity out of the way first. How long have you been a rabbi, by the way?
Oh, 27 years.
27 years.
27
wow.
years.
That is a long time. So when you hear this story, and it's pretty much the biggest news story in the cycle of the day,
right?
And yesterday, that Talib and Omar, Benjamin Netanyahu making the announcement yesterday that they're not allowed in the country, and then Talib is allowed in to visit her 90-year-old grandmother. She declines. Donald Trump, in my opinion, has played a big role in this. What do you make of this?
Oh, there's so many issues. So the first one, let's start at the end. Not at the beginning. When Talib, when she says, you know what, it would just be too painful for me. I couldn't stand to see my. It's too oppressive for me to show up in Ramallah and keep my mouth shut for one day. Mm-hmm. One day, which is, by the way, again, for those that really don't know the issue, it was her suggestion. She petitioned Netanyahu after her visa was denied. Mm-hmm. She petitioned and said, let me go in. I'll go in and I'll just, it's my last chance. My poor 90-year-old dying grandmother. This will be the last chance I have to say hi to her. And then when Netanyahu did the correct thing and said, okay, you know what? If you put in writing that you're not going to, it will be a humanitarian visit. You won't promote BDS. You won't try and burn my house down while you're in it. Mm-hmm. Come on in, visit your grandmother. All of a sudden, Talib says, I can't do it. It's too painful. So that is so profoundly insightful.
So you think she lied, basically?
It shows she's a farce. It shows that her whole purpose of the visit was to bash Israel. Mm-hmm. And many times when you speak with liars and cheats long enough, it just comes out.
Okay, so that may be true, and I am not going to defend her. And I haven't. I'm not defending her.
You're a good boy.
However, Benjamin Netanyahu, up until recently, said that both of these women were allowed in the country. And the point I'm trying to make is, I believe Donald Trump certainly swayed his opinion on this and put some pressure on him. He certainly did on social media. I think that part of this is inappropriate. If Benjamin Netanyahu does not want those women in his country, that's his decision. I think that is fair. What I don't like is our own president of the United States getting involved. And in my opinion, the reason why he is getting involved is because these women have been outspoken on him. Anybody who's outspoken, the president of the United States, he goes after them. And I think this is his way of saying, I have more power than you. Stop.
Okay, so I want to break your comments into two parts.
Okay.
The first part is when you said Netanyahu up until recently was willing to let these two women in. So that came from a statement from the Israeli ambassador to the United States a month ago.
Yes.
In between that time and this time, the Talib introduced to Congress a pro-BDS statement. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really legislation because it's not binding. But then then she was one of just very few members of Congress to vote against the condemnation of the BDS from the Congress, from the United States Congress. In other words, she put herself in a position where she said publicly, unequivocally, on record, she is pro-BDS, which means anti-Israel, and then she falls squarely in the parameters of the Israeli law that allows to deny entry to Israel for anyone who is, wants to burn the house down, so to speak. So in terms of that, I think it's very reasonable the Netanyahu, change face. But the other issue that I think we have to remember is, by Trump, is, every president has always exerted pressure on Israel, without exception, and wherever else they can exert pressure. Every president exerts
Do you
pressure.
think this is just more publicly because it was done on Twitter?
Yeah, because that's his style. That's how Donald Trump works. So,
Yeah, and
so
so-
he's just doing what he normally does. And the other aspect is, he's right. If Trump said, imagine for a moment, wouldn't happen, but imagine he exerted pressure on Netanyahu to drop the security checkpoints and allow any Palestinian who wanted to carry a gun into Israel proper. So Netanyahu would have said no. So it just happened to be that Trump is pressuring Netanyahu to do what is in the confines of Israeli law.
You look at these 4 women, the squad, as they call them. I do believe Omar has made some anti-Semitic remarks. I don't know if Tlaib has. Maybe you could shed some light on that. I don't think Ocasio-Cortez hates Jewish people. But I do believe that, again, Omar has made some anti-Semitic remarks. What are your thoughts on these 4 women in general? Do you think all 4 of them are anti-Semitic and hate Jews?
Yes, I do. I think that all 4 of them are on record in terms of, well, first of all, that the first, the most telling point, which is in congressional record now, is they all voted against the resolution condemning BDS. So that's sets it out. But I think Omar had members of Hezbollah at her various rallies, and she welcomed them. They all have made anti-Israel, anti-Jewish statements. They are all friends. They've been published and, have had friendships with Louis Farrakhan. They all have associations with a lot of anti-Jewish, anti-Israel people. So, these are 4 people that are very vocal about their feelings towards Israel and the Jewish people. When you say someone is a Jew hater, that is a less sophisticated way of saying that, what they are. But so it's a little more crass. So people, jump at it. And so when the president speaks in the language of every man, then people jump at him more quickly. But the truth is, these are people that are anti-Israel and anti-Jewish.
Do you think Barack Obama was anti-Jewish and still is?
Not nearly as much as these 4. I don't. He was not a friend to Israel in the way that other presidents have been a friend to Israel. And certainly Donald Trump has been the greatest friend to Israel. Perhaps rivaled, people don't know this, but President Nixon. President Nixon got a he got a bad rep, but he pretty much saved the Jewish state by the 1973 war.
If you were sitting across the table right now from Ilhan Omar, what would you say to her?
Oh, that's such a good question. Never thought of that.
It's my job. I have to ask good questions, Rabbi.
That was a great, they do say...
How do I perform a bris? No, I'm just kidding.
They
Go
do
ahead.
say you are of the best interviewers in the last 20 years, of your 20 years experience.
I don't know who the hell said that.
It's on your website.
Okay. Then somebody's lying. Go
You
ahead.
did. No, you did. Okay. You wrote it.
But if she was sitting here, I would imagine you'd have a lot to say to her, but what would you say?
Yeah, the reality is... I think I would begin the discussion. People that are anti-Israel and anti-Jewish are there's 2 kinds. One is a person who is misinformed, and the other person is someone who is just downright evil. It's in their DNA. They don't like Jews and they don't like Israel because really behind they don't like God. So I would try and enter a discussion to discern which one is she. Now, when AIPAC came out, AIPAC is the pro-Israel lobby. When they came out in condemnation of President Trump's tweet and this barring of these ladies to go to Israel, they are assuming that if you're exposed to the beauty of Israel, then you will love Israel.
Right.
The problem with these 2 is they had a trip. They were going to meet with the PFLP, which is a terrorist organization and recognized by the United States government as one. And they were totally designed to only be shown the oppressive state of the Palestinian people from Palestinians with an agenda to show them that. So I would take my opportunity to say, first, judge her to the side of merit for a moment and say, listen, we want to show you Israel proper. Let's just let you know, by the way, that the reason you can have a 90-year-old Palestinian woman live into her 90s in the same house that she's lived in since 1974 is because the Jews are really, really kind to the Arabs.
Right.
And I would try and accentuate that. And then if she still hates us, okay, she's evil.
All right.
Fine.
Fair enough. If you're just joining us right now, we're joined in studio by Rabbi Yitz Wyne. We're asking him questions about anti-Semitism, the squad. But here's what I want to do. When we come back, I want to ask you about white supremacy. We had a Fox News host in Tucker, white supremacist Carlson. I'm sorry. Did I just call him that? He's the one who said that white supremacy, the idea of it, is a hoax. I want to get your thoughts on that. We had somebody in our backyard, let's call it a white supremacist, who wanted to shoot up synagogues. I want to get your thoughts on that. I want to ask you why hate crimes are up. And we are also going to go to the GCI guys hotline and take some calls at 257-5396. Again, that number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation. Ask the rabbi a question, anything that we have discussed. 702-257-5396. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro taking your phone calls. We have Rabbi Yitz Wyne talking about anti-Semitism, the squad. We'll get to white supremacy here in a second. But again, that hotline, if you want to be a part of the program, give us a buzz. Now's the time to do it, 257-5396. If you're in Israel, give us a call at 702-257-5396. Why don't we go straight to the phone calls, and let's go to Anthony. Anthony, thank you for coming on. You're on with the rabbi. Go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
What's up, Anthony?
I find this conversation alarming and disappointing. I'll tell you why. I can't think of one thing that Ilhan Omar or Tlaib has said that has led to the murders of American citizens. But Trump has, you can prove things that Trump has said has led to the murders of Jewish citizens in this country, as well as now his
Anthony, how long have you been listening to our show?
I've been listening for years. I liked you when you were on in the evenings.
Anthony, I have been very. No, I appreciate that, Anthony. Anthony, I can only speak for myself in the studio. I have been very consistent with Donald Trump. I think he plays a role in white supremacy. I think he plays a role in the hatred in this country. Make no mistake about that, Anthony. I am not a Donald Trump apologist, and I can't stand the man. I think he's a scumbag. I say it every day on this show. With that being said, to be fair, Anthony, Omar has said some anti-Semitic things that has caused division in this country. And
I can't think of one.
Rabbi. Okay, let's go to the rabbi. Okay, fair enough, Anthony. That's a fair question. Let's go to the rabbi on this. Rabbi, what has she said that, in your view, is hateful and anti-Semitic?
Oh, she's come against pro-BDS, the pro-BDS.
Again, anti-government.
No. Anthony, understand what the BDS movement is. That is a movement that is strictly, it's the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement against the state of Israel. So even in Nevada, our state legislature last year, made a resolution that any company that is involved in the BDS movement would be boycotted by the state of Nevada. In other words, it would be pulled out of the state of Nevada because it is considered, people can do what they want, but to us it's a crime because it is a movement that is designed to delegitimize the state of Israel, hurt Israel, and crush it. So if a person comes out and says, I'm for this movement, you really don't need to go further than that. That's a person.
Can I just say, and I just show her ignorance, Anthony, when she's talking about Israel and she makes a statement on Twitter all about the Benjamins. You cannot tell me that you cannot tell me that is not a stereotype. And at the very least, it was completely ignorant of her to make a statement like that.
Well, remember, she was arguing about supporters of Israel in Congress that would use the money and not really support Israel.
I understand that.
I'm going to say it again. All I'm saying is that, I'm going to say it again. Trump has led to the murders of American Jewish citizens in his comments.
So I have to tell you,
one thing, and nobody that can say Omar or Tlaib has said one thing that's led to the murders of any American citizen. And that's what's important here.
All right. Well, Anthony, listen, you're certainly entitled to your opinion. Rabbi, thank you for the call, Anthony, if you want to respond to that. Rabbi.
Yeah, Anthony, I think it's important to recognize people have free will and people are responsible for themselves. And if someone says something to me that is, or I see something in the news that is distasteful, I can close my ears. I have the ability to stop and say, I disagree, and I'm not going to follow that.
Sure.
I think to stand up and say that you have a person who is, and he's not calling for violence, and to blame.
Well, he has
violence.
He has. He was at a rally, and he said, if you rough this guy up, I'll pay your legal fees. So you can't say he doesn't promote violence at times. At times he does, Rabbi. I disagree with you on that.
Okay, he said that, and it was wrong.
When somebody in the crowd screams out a chant or says, kill illegals, which I feel I'm paraphrasing, but that's what was done. Yeah. And he kind of laughs it off.
And he said only in the panhandle.
Right.
But prior to that, he said, and I quote, they expect me to let my people at the border use guns. I would never do that.
We can all agree.
So that's totally taken out of context. But he does make mistakes. He's not perfect,
he
obviously.
doesn't show. Let's take another phone call.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's not an experienced politician. He does right. And again, I don't want to be, and he's not polished, and that's his style. His style not to be polished. But again, are we going to blame Bernie Sanders for that guy who went and shot the congressman? I mean, he was
because I'll tell you,
Bernie Sanders.
And I'll respond to that. I'll tell you what. If somebody in the crowd chanted something out, send her back. If somebody in the crowd talked about shooting illegals crossing the border, Bernie Sanders wouldn't stand for that. You can disagree with Bernie Sanders' policies. That's okay. But I can't name you one thing that Bernie Sanders had ever said in his life, let alone in his political career, that has incited violence. Let's go back to the GCI phone lines, 257-5396. Jason, you're next. You're on with the Rabbi. Go ahead.
Hey, great name, Jason.
Hey, thanks. So this is a little concerning, guys, because first off, there's a difference between being against Israel's policies against the Palestinian state and what they're doing with the settlements and kicking people out of their homes and destroying villages and things like that, and being anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish. Okay, I don't think those ladies are anti-Jewish. I don't think they're anti-Semitic. I think they are just against the policies of the oppression of the Palestinian people by the Israeli state. And now nobody can deny the fact that that's happening. Okay, nobody can.
All right,
deny
Jason, let's stay on the line. Let's let the Rabbi respond to that.
Yes, I will deny it's happening. But first of all, Jason, you have to realize something. Today's anti-Jewish is directed at anti-Israel. Israel is a Jewish state. Not everything that Israel...
No, it's not. It's a Zionist state. There's a difference.
Okay, you just proved my point. You realize you just proved my point. When you say that it's a Zionist state, and then, by saying that, you're equating Zionism with Judaism.
The capitalist Zionists that are in Israel, killing those poor people, taking their property and expanding their state.
So
and not giving any kind of, there's an unbalance there, and there's a humanitarian crisis that needs to be recognized.
Jason, have you ever seen, are you aware of what the state of the people who were living in Palestine pre-1948 and in the areas pre-1967, between their standard of living and their freedoms at what they were pre-67, pre-48, and today? Are you aware of the difference? Are you aware that if there was that today in Saudi Arabia, if a woman, walks out and she wants to draw in parts of the Arab world, not just specific Saudi Arabia, she wants to walk out in pants, she wants to get an abortion, she wants to do whatever she wants to do, walk out without wearing her, her garb. You know what? She can be jailed, prison, tortured.
Yeah.
Wait. No, hold on. But in Israel, she's given full citizenship. And by the way, yes, an Arab who's born in Israel property is given full citizenship with full rights.
That's a good point, Jason. I want to interject here. I want to ask you a question. Hopefully, you can. Do you agree that anti-Semitism, sadly, is alive and well in this country? And there's a lot of hatred in this country. And we just had someone in our backyard in Las Vegas that wanted to shoot up synagogues. Would you agree that anti-Semitism absolutely exists in this country?
Not only anti-Semitism, but racism, and it's rampant, and it always has been.
I agree.
Right.
Our culture is a very tribal culture, and this country started on the backs of slaves and war and suffrage of people. Right? So this country was built by that. So understanding our differences, right? And the thing that makes this country so great is that everybody from all parts of the world can come here because we're looking for something that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, and we're building that here. Okay, we're not perfect by any means. We've come a long way. We have a long way to go. Okay, anti-Semitism, racism, all this thing that's coming up right now on the forefront and is mainstream, thanks to the president and the way that he promotes it, right? Is disgusting.
It certainly doesn't help.
Or is it just, or is it people that they already have extremist views, and they're leveraging this president who is very, very formal, not formal, very, very blunt, not polished, and they're saying, "Hey, this is my scapegoat. He's forcing me to do these ridiculous things."
These guys are waiting on bated breath, waiting for someone like the president to say, "Go get him."
All right. Well, Jason, listen, it's an interesting debate, Jason. I do appreciate your call, and by the way, I don't disagree with most of what you said.
Oh, great call.
Yeah, Rabbi, I do want you to stick around for another segment if that's okay with you.
My honor and pleasure.
Yeah, because we really didn't get to white supremacy. We really didn't get to what happened in our backyard.
Right.
We do have our guy, news anchor John Schaefer, who's going to be coming up here with the news. But after that, I want to ask you, how does it make you feel that in your backyard, you call Las Vegas your home, as I have for pretty much 20 years, that there's somebody, and sadly, he's probably not the only one. Luckily, he was arrested due to the unbelievable police work and FBI work, a white supremacist who wanted to go into synagogues and kill innocent Jews, similar to what took place in Pittsburgh. And he wanted to go into gay bars and kill homosexuals for no other reason other than the fact that they are gay. Killing Jews for no other reason other than the fact that they are Jewish. And I also want to bring up something else, and I think this will be a very interesting debate. I'm not an extremely religious person. I have many reasons why. I think, sadly, religion has done more to hurt people than help people. Now, I have a feeling that you're going to disagree with me on that, so we will get to that. And, it's the billion-dollar question, right? Why do bad things happen to good people? We're going to get to that and much, much more. We have Rabbi Yitz Wyne in studio. I've asked him to stick around for another segment. He's gracious enough to say yes. Sadly, there will be no bris performed in studio today. I was really looking forward to that. I know JD needs one of those, but he'll get one another time.
Honestly, I don't even know what a bris is.
We can work on it. We can work on it.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. John Schaefer coming in studio next with the news. You're listening to The Vegas Take. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. On a Friday, we made it through the week, barely, this new time slot, 9 a.m. to noon. Can you imagine having to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning? Nobody has to do that. It's just crazy. Well, John has to wake up a little earlier.
3:20.
Yeah, that is the voice of John Schaefer, news anchor here at KDWN. You really wake up at 3:20 every day?
You really sleep until 8?
That is sleeping in for you, isn't it? I asked you earlier today in the hallways. I said, what's sleeping in for you on the weekends? You said, what, 6:45 a.m.?
6:30.
That's disgusting. That's horrible.
That's 3 hours more sleep than normal. So
what time do you go to sleep, by the way?
That's the problem. Usually not till like 9 or 10 at night.
That's pretty late for your hours. So you're on like 5 hours of sleep right now.
Yeah.
And now you got to talk to me, so that sounds really fun.
Sounds lively. You're lively and awake.
That's true.
Plus, I heard there was going to be a bris.
Luckily. Well, JD wanted one, but Rabbi declined, unfortunately.
I still don't know what that is.
Circumcision, my friend.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Snip, snip, circumcision.
Right. Just close your eyes.
Yeah. Anyway,
take a deep breath.
It's too early in the morning to talk about that. But John Schaefer in here with the news. John, what is going on, my friend?
Well, a Las Vegas tourist who visited the Luxor and Mandalay Bay earlier this month had the measles and may have exposed other people to the disease. The Southern Nevada Health District has confirmed the measles case. Measles can be highly contagious, so health officials are advising people who may have been exposed to review their immunization status. Symptoms can begin up to 21 days after exposure to the virus. There have been no measles cases reported in Clark County residents this year.
There is a rumor that if you sit in my car, JD, there's a chance you could get measles. Isn't that true?
I've had to scratch myself several times after leaving your car within 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you didn't get measles.
You don't get the Silkwood shower when you get out of the car. I'd ask him to drop me off out at the car wash. 16-year-old was arrested yesterday for bringing a BB gun to Sedway Middle School. A parent saw the student with the gun and called police. The teen, not a student at the school. Police say he was on school grounds because his friend was involved in a fight.
How old was this kid?
16.
16 years old, access to a BB gun. By the way, make no mistake, a BB gun could kill somebody. It's possible. It's still a dangerous weapon. I mean, highly unlikely.
Ever since I've seen A Christmas Story, I've always been terrified of Red Ryder BB guns.
just a 16-year-old walking around with a BB gun, no issues at all there. God.
Conditions on the Colorado River have improved dramatically over the past year, but not enough to stave off voluntary cutbacks for some water users in the southwestern U.S. and Mexico. Federal report released yesterday says the water level in Lake Mead expected to be slightly below 1,090 feet on January 1st. It's nearly 15 feet higher than projected last year. It means river users will avoid tougher mandatory cutbacks, but it is low enough for Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada to make voluntary reductions from their share of the water, which they agreed to in March.
All I got to say, I was just in San Diego at some real beaches. I don't even want to talk about Lake Mead. Why can't they just make a beach here? Isn't that possible? And I'm not talking about like
you don't
a
like
fake
the rocky beach at Lake Mead?
No, I
where
don't.
You have to wear army boots.
Listen, I love yeah, that's true. I love Las Vegas, but that's one of the things that we are missing here. We need the beach.
If Vegas had a beach, it would be absolutely the greatest place on the face of the earth.
Rabbi, come on, make yourself useful. Can't you just say a prayer and can't we just get a beach here? I mean, come on.
I think that's a reasonable request.
Done.
Perfect.
We live in the middle of the desert. That's why there's no beach here. There wasn't a lake here either until they built the dam.
Listen, I'm filing a complaint.
We just need a man-made ocean. It's very simple.
I'm filing a complaint. We do have topless pools, though. That we do have, but we don't have beaches.
In abundance.
Yes.
Well, how often do you change your underwear? For nearly half Americans, it's not an everyday occurrence. A survey conducted by underwear maker Tommy John found that 45% of Americans said they've worn the same pair of underwear for 2 days or more in a row. More surprising number reveals that 13% said they have worn the same pair for a week or more. Men are 2.5 times more likely to wear the same pair for 7 days or longer.
7? Okay, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I'm not
come
that
on.
bad.
Yeah,
7 days or longer.
I know.
7's pretty high. Now, I would like to know that. I would like to know
2
that.
is high. 2 is high.
Exactly.
I would like to know that poll surveyed amongst radio hosts.
Wait, what do you mean 7 days are high?
Because
What are you willing to admit on the radio?
I would imagine that most radio hosts, male radio hosts, wear their underwear for 3 or 4 days in a row at a time.
Well,
not this one.
Yeah,
no,
not
no,
this
no.
one either.
Everyday radio hosts.
who's to say I even wear underwear? I mean, that's what I want to know. What's the average man? Well, actually, I don't want to know that. But wow, that is alarming. So, what's the longest you've worn the same pair of underwear? Be honest.
Oh, 1 day.
See, I think
I'm not
you're
talking
lying.
about myself.
I think you're lying. There's no. So you're telling me you've never wore the same pair of underwear in 2 days in a row ever in your life?
I change my underwear every single day, and I buy new ones every 6 months.
I call that bluff. I think there's no. I'm going to ask your wife if that's true. That's. Do you believe him? I don't believe him. I
believe him because he's married, and I think she will make sure that he changes his underwear every day.
So you're telling me in college you wore the same underwear every day?
I've made it a point since I was, we'll say, 8 years old to do so, Brian.
I'm shocked to hear that. I'm going to go 90% you're lying, 10% you're being honest. But
He wasn't raised by wolves. I mean,
Rabbi, do you change your underwear every day? Be honest. Don't lie.
Yes.
Is it a sin to wear the same pair of underwear 2 days in a row?
I don't want to say it's a sin against man, but certainly a sin against God.
Fair enough. Mr. Schaefer, thank you so much for the news. We appreciate that. I hope we've done okay the first week, 9 a.m. to noon. It's been a fun week. And, well, it's not over yet. Unfortunately, we still have to do an hour and a half of radio.
No, it's been great. I'm enjoying it.
Thank you.
And
I
now
appreciate
I'm going to go
that.
change my
All right.
underwear.
Yeah, go get some sleep. Go get some sleep. All right, there you go. Jay, great job, John Schaefer with the news. I always love that.
John.
I always love that last story he does. It always gets me giggly, gets me laughing a little bit. All right, well, let's just move from underwear to some serious stories about anti-Semitism and white supremacists. And we are taking your calls on the GCI hotline at 257-5396. I'll tell you what, we got one guy waiting on hold for a long time, so we want to get to our callers when they are very, very patient. So why don't we go to Brian? Brian, you're next on the Vegas Take. Thanks for calling in.
What's up, Brian?
Good morning, gentlemen. Rabbi, you're a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much for coming in studio.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have real information about what actually happens in the nation of Israel as opposed to snippets and little bits and pieces that we hear in the media. And even the prior caller, Jason, is clearly ignorant of the Palestinian history and juxtaposed against the openness of Israel. And the statement that he made about America being that, open beacon of light for people around the world can also be said about the nation of Israel. There's no other nation in the Middle East like Israel that's so opening and welcoming. And then I have a religious question.
Okay. But thank you, and I agree with you. And by the way, many times you can know know the truth from what your enemies say, and by the fact that Iran calls Israel the little Satan and the United States the big Satan. Now we're not Satan, of course, but that the comparison between Israel and the United States and a lot of commonality is very true. So I could not agree with you more.
Currently, I'm going through the book of Genesis in a weekly fellowship, and I'm also doing a college course online at Hillsdale College, going through the book of Genesis with Justin A. Jackson, Ph.D. in literature there. And this week was the chapter 17, verse 7, which you guys just brought up, circumcision. And my question is, do religious Jewish people still practice that covenant established by Abraham?
Yes, yes, we do. On the 8th day, barring no medical difficulties, no health risks, every Jewish male is circumcised in a proper way, and there are people who specialize in it. It's a special course. Certain rabbis is called a moil, and that's what they do. My son can do that.
What do they do with the piece of skin, by the way? That's what I want to know.
Bury it.
Meet the Fockers. Remember that? Remember that scene with the skin? That was pretty funny.
There's a lot of there's a lot of jokes we could say, but we don't have enough time. But there's a lot of good jokes we could get into.
Brian and JD, you might not know that Abraham was 99 years old the day that they took that covenant and made it real. He and everybody in his household, every male in the household, we're talking hundreds of people, were circumcised on that very day.
Yeah,
I was unaware of that.
Yeah, Brian, you asked if religious Jews observe the ritual of circumcision. I would say it's probably the most observed ritual in the Jewish people, whether people are religious or not religious, just affiliating with being Jewish, they circumcise their boys.
Yeah. All right, let's take to another phone call. 257-539 says go to Lewis. Lewis, what's going on?
What's up, Lewis?
Good morning. I have two questions for the rabbi. It's a wonderful day, and thank you, guys. I love the show.
Thank you.
Now, Rabbi, I want to ask you the first question. Number one, what religion on this planet hates the Jewish religion more than any other religion?
You want me to say Islam, but I'm not going to.
Okay, that's enough. You said it. Now, my second question.
I'm sorry. I don't want to let you get away with that.
Hold on. Go ahead, Rabbi.
I know the whole history of both religions, all the way back.
Islam, pure Islam is not tolerant of anything other than Islam. So
Can I ask the second question?
Well, he's still answering your first.
Yeah.
Go ahead, answer.
Islam.
You can answer them both, but in time. But the second question I want to ask you, have you ever read a book called The History of Islam?
No, I have not.
Well, mister, you bettor. Because if you read the Torah every day, you have to read this book because the whole history
of
how it began and the history, it comes all
That's
the way
fine.
up.
Lewis, let me ask you a question
all the way
now.
Up, sir, to the 60s.
Lewis, let me ask you. Okay, Lewis, we get it. Let me ask you a question now. Do you think everybody who is Islam hates Jewish people?
Hell yeah.
Okay, well, you're an idiot then.
Lewis, let me ask you a question myself.
Well, then you're an idiot then.
Have you ever read the Quran?
Lewis,
you can't, JD. You can't reasonably.
I have another question for Lewis.
Get rid of this guy because he's not going to call into the show twice. He's using another name.
Yes,
and
Lewis. I'm pretty sure you called it. I'm pretty sure you're wrong.
And
you
you're
called
a
it the show
fraud.
as a different name.
And you're a fraud. And you're an idiot. This is the same guy who calls up who thinks everybody in the Islamic religion is cutting people's heads off. This is an ignoramus moron, and you cannot have an intellectual conversation with a racist and a bigot, and that's exactly what Lewis is. When you call up and you say every Islamic person hates Jewish people, when you call up and you say everybody in the religion of Islam wants to cut people's heads off, that is racism. That's exactly what it is. Make no mistake about it. He is an idiot, so we're not even going to entertain anything else that he said. I want to move on to white supremacy because we had somebody in our backyard that wanted to go into synagogues. Thank goodness he didn't, and kill innocent Jews. He wanted to kill homosexuals, anybody that was in a gay bar. Yeah. Rabbi, this is in our backyard. Yeah. Hate crimes are up 18% since Trump took office. Am I putting all the blame on Donald Trump? No. But I'm going to put partial blame on him. I think there's a lot of division in this country. Again, not all his fault. What do you make of this story that hits home right here in Las Vegas?
So, there was a fantastic reporter, Kelsey Grega of the Las Vegas Sun, who the other day published an article on this particular event. And I recommend the article, just going in the archives. It was another day. And, she asked what my synagogue, Young Israel Aish, what was our response to it? And I said we had a lot of gratitude to the FBI and to Metro. They've been amazing. Metro immediately sent around through the direction of the ADL, of Jolie Brislin at ADL.
Sure. Yep.
So they've been, circling the synagogue constantly. But the people in the synagogue, it was very, very interesting. I mean, people were like, oh my gosh, this guy was going to come into a synagogue and, do bad stuff. But there was also the understanding that on a spiritual level, when we do good things to other people, that brings divine protection in the world. Okay, so because we work on a heavenly plane and an earthly plane at the same time. So the people that are at synagogue and they're learning Torah and they're trying to observe the commandments, they know they played a part in a spiritual sense in the FBI being in the chat room, catching the guy, making the world a safer place. Now, the fact is, it came out afterwards that this guy was going after a Messianic congregation, which is not Jewish, by the way. I mean, that's a church. It's not, and the fellow who stands at the front of the congregation, calls himself Rabbi. So, he said, none of the other Jewish congregations are having, mercy on us. Is not a Jewish congregation, so that's the whole thing. It's a church. It's right. But I think, listen, we've got to be aware that, as I said before, there are two kinds of anti-Semites. There's one that is just ignorant and uninformed. Perhaps they've never met a Jew. Perhaps they never really have understood. They're buying some fake news, maybe. Right, they're buying some bad stuff.
Good phrase.
Right, but and then there's the person who's truly evil, who really does hate morality. So we have to figure out what the two distinguish.
Rabbi, I have a question. I'm not Jewish myself. What is the law or the protocol for having weapons to arm yourself in a place of worship like a synagogue?
We have them.
You do have them.
We have them, absolutely. I have several people packing heat. And they are there for the protection.
Which makes sense, considering what's going on or what has taken place nationally.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it was after the shooting in Pittsburgh that then we got an armed guard out in front of the synagogue. And again, as I said to Kelsey, and she printed it, I said, it's such a shame. These things are expensive. And it's such a shame that charity funds have to be used for protection as opposed to helping people. And I think that we've, as a community, when we make a deeper commitment to spreading good values, then what happens is at least you're not going to get rid of the evil people, but you can get rid of those misinformed people and have them understand their.
Can you comment as to the grade of the weaponry?
That's around. I don't know so much about weapons, but it looks like it's pretty good stuff. It's pretty. You walk in there. I mean, these things are pretty big. I mean,
I don't know. I'll be on the record as saying I don't have a problem with that. I think people should be allowed to defend themselves, but I do have an issue with the types of guns that are being sold out there, weapons of war, so to speak. And we've talked about that. Well, listen, Rabbi, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really, really enjoyed listening to some of your answers. I don't say that about every guest we have in the studio.
No, he was an outstanding guest.
And we'd love to have you on again soon. And listen, we hope we don't have to report on any of these hate crimes up and anti-Semitism. But unfortunately, when we do have to report on them, we want to get your perspective. Rabbi, thank you so much. Rabbi, just give out your information real quickly. How can people follow you?
Rabbi Yitz Wyne. I'm the rabbi of Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas. It's a synagogue in Piccoli Ranch near Summerlin. You can contact me at, just send an email to me or at Rabbi Yitz, Y-I-T-Z, Wyne, W-Y-N-E. Or you go on YouTube, go to Yitz Wyne, Y-I-T-Z, W-Y-N-E, and you'll catch all these videos, and they're incredible. And, of course, the archives of the Rabbi Show. Many, many years of those. They're awesome.
Awesome. Well, Rabbi, thank you so much for taking the time, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks a lot.
So when we come back, talk about the cat calling the kettle black. Donald Trump mocking someone for their weight at a campaign rally. Last time I checked, I don't think Donald Trump is on the front of Fitness Magazine. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. By the way, coming up here, this is going to be a fun one. Everyone's bracing for alien stock. Area 51 being stormed by a bunch of nut jobs. Well, on the phone, coming up next, we have Connie West from the Little Alien Inn in Rachel, Nevada. How is she preparing for this madness? We'll get to that.
I just have to say something really quick. Rabbi Yitz Wyne was outstanding, and we're probably going to have him on the show once a month moving forward.
I agree. Fantastic guest. So I want to get quickly to this in regards to Donald Trump. He's at a rally, and he is talking to a protester. At least we thought it was a protester. I'll get to that in a second. But President Donald Trump, not exactly in the best physical condition himself. He does have man boobs, folks. He does. Let's just call it for what it is. Here is what he said to a person who he thought was a protester at his rally in Manchester, New Hampshire.
That guy's got a serious weight problem. Go home, start exercising. Get him out of here, please.
Yeah, start exercising. This is the fat bozo who eats KFC every day, who's got man boobs, okay? And, most women don't have a cup size as large as him. That's not a good thing, by the way. I'm not bragging about Donald Trump's physique. I mean, again, this is just another example of Donald Trump acting like a complete, you-know-what. Whether it's a protest or not. And by the way, it turns out this guy was not even protesting. He was actually a Trump supporter, which makes it even more ridiculous. I mean, really, Donald Trump is the type of person you want looking at another individual, telling them to exercise. When was the last time? Swinging a golf club and taking a cart on one of your stupid golf courses, last I checked, does not constitute as exercise.
Clearly, it was a very hypocritical statement considering his current physical condition and state. That being said, he was a staunch Trump supporter, and Trump has since called him and apologized. He has called him personally and apologized.
So if you like Donald Trump, he's going to be nice to you, and if you protest him or don't like his policies, then it's okay to go after his weight. Do you realize the hypocrisy and how ridiculous Donald Trump looks? He acts like a child because he is a child that happens to weigh maybe 300 pounds. Okay, what's the over-under on it? We got to take a break here. What's the over-under?
I would guess that Trump weighs 245 pounds.
Yeah, that's a great weight, by the way. That's a great individual. And by the way, even if
he's
6'3", even if he was skinny, you're the president of the United States. The man has zero class. But I'm sure Melania is extremely attracted to him. I'm sure Melania, married the man because of his incredible physique and his orange appearance. Because if anybody should be talking about somebody else's appearance, it absolutely is Donald Trump, right? Because he's the next supermodel. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take.